Welcome back to Saxon Math. This is lesson 75, writing fractions and decimals as percents. It's part 1. It's a very short lesson in the sense of this is all of the information that they've given us. A percent is actually a fraction with a denominator of 100. Instead of writing the denominator 100, we can use a percent sign. So 25 100ths equals 25%. End of lesson. Let's look at some examples and some practice problems. That's the long part of this. There are 20 problems that we're going to review here. So let's get started. Example 1, write 3 hundredths as a percent. So 3 hundredths simply is 3%. You can kind of see that the 100 part is almost written in the percent symbol in a sense. You've got 1 here and then the 2 zeros. So you could kind of think of it that way. Whatever the numerator is that number, and whatever, when you have 100 down here, that's as a percent. We're not talking about 1,000% or anything other than 100% or 100 in the denominator. It has to be 100 in the denominator. A percent is a fraction with a denominator of 100. Instead of writing the denominator, we can write a percent sign as 3 hundredths as 3%. Example 2, write 3/10ths as a percent. Well, this one might throw you for a loop. So you have to keep in mind that 3/10ths is the same as 30 hundredths. How do I know? Because this one times 10 will get me to 100, and this one times 10 will get me to 30. Now I know what this is as a percent. It's 30%. So 3/10ths is the same as 30% when writing it that way. First, we'll write an equivalent fraction that has a denominator of 100, just as we did there. So 3/10ths is equal to what numerator over 100? And you multiply 3/10ths by 10 over 10, which is the same as multiplying by 1. And then you can write the fraction. The numerator is the number that you would be writing, and then the percent is just the symbol you use when you see the denominator is 100. Example 3, of the 30 students who took the test, 15 earned an A. What percent of the students earned an A? So 15 students earned an A. There were 30 total students. What percent earned an A? So in this case, when you've got that 15 30ths, it equals the same as 1/2. It can be reduced. We can multiply this times 50 and this times 50 to get an equivalent denominator of 100 now. This is a fraction equal to 1/2 that's has a denominator of 100. Once you've got that denominator of 100, you now know that 50 is the numerator, and that's the percentage. So 15 out of 30 is the same as 50% of the people who took the test earned A's. Example 4, write 12 hundredths as a percent. Well, I just said the answer. You already know that this is the same as 12 hundredths because you knew that that 12 is in the hundredths place. If you know place value, know that that is in the hundredths place. And you now know what this is as a percent, 12%. Example 5, write 8 hundredths as a percent. Again, if you know how to read this, instead of 0.08, you know that that 8 is in the hundredths place. You know that this is going to be 8% because it's the same as 8 hundredths. Example 6, write 8/10ths as a percent. So 8/10ths needs to be converted into an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. So if I was to multiply this times 10, I have to multiply this times 10. That would be 80 over 100, which is the same as 80% for this answer. 80 hundredths is the same as 80%. So notice that when a decimal number is converted to a percent, the decimal point is shifted 2 places to the right. In fact, shifting the decimal point 2 places to the right is a quick and useful way to write decimal numbers as percents. So we could have 8 tenths and move this decimal once, twice to the right, and now it just becomes 80. So it goes from this location to this location, and then you add the percent sign on, and that would be the same as 80%. Instead of converting it into a fraction with a denominator of 100, you could just shift the decimal 2 places to the right. All right, so let's try some of these. Write each fraction as a percent. Letter A, 31 hundredths should be 31%. Letter B, 1 hundredth should be 1%. Letter C, 1/10. This may have fooled you if you didn't recognize that you have to have an equivalent fraction to 1/10 with a denominator of 100. 10 times 10 is 100. 1 times 10 is 10. This would be 10%. Letter D, 3/50ths. Again, you need to have a denominator of 100. How do you change 50 into 100? You'd multiply it by 2. And if you multiply the denominator by 2, you have to multiply the numerator by 2. You get 6. 3 times 2 is 6. This would be 6% as a percentage. 7/25ths. This one, again, you need to have a denominator with an equivalent of 100. So times 4 is what it would take to get to 100 there. I have to multiply that one times 4. I get 28. That numerator becomes the number that I would use with the symbol for percentage right after it. Letter F, 2/5. I can do the same thing here. I can see that 5 will convert into 100 quite easily by multiplying it by 20. And 2 times 20 is 40. So because 2 times 20 is 40, now I know what my numerator, being 40, will determine what the number is with the attached symbol of percentage, 40%. Letter G, 12 of the 30 students earned a B on the test. What percent of the students earned a B? So if it's 12 of the 30 total students, that's 12 out of 30 who earned a B on the test. The percentage is simply, I can't convert that 30 into 100 very easily. I can't multiply 30 times anything to get to 100. So one thing that I might want to do in this case, I could reduce this to see if these are going to work out to something that I can convert. So this 12, it looks like it's divisible by 6, and this 30 is also divisible by 6. So if I reduce this fraction, I would end up with 2/5. And now I can convert that fraction easily into 100. I can see that 5 times 20 would be 100, and 2 times 20 would be 40. So I'd end up with 40%. So the answer to the percentage of students who earned B's on the test would be 40% earned B's. Letter H. Jorge correctly answered 18 of the 20 questions on the test. What percent of the questions did he answer correctly? So 18/20ths can be converted into a fraction with a denominator of 100 pretty easily by multiplying by 5. So I have to multiply 18 times 5 to know what the the numerator is. And this would be 40, carry the 4, that would be 5, and that would be 90. So this one I can see now as 90 with the percent symbol, because 90 is the numerator. He answered 90% of his questions correctly when he answered 18 out of the 20. Write each decimal number as a percent. Letter I, 25 hundredths. So you could do two things. You could see, well, I just said the name of that decimal. I named it properly, 25 hundredths, so it's 25% because it's over 100 then. Or I could just move this decimal 2 places to the right. Once, twice. Boom, it's 25, and then I have to put a symbol of percent on there. Letter J, 3/10. Now I could name this as a fraction 3/10 and change that to an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100, or I could just move the decimal 2 places to the right, which I think I'm going to do. I'm going to move them 2 places to the right. That would make this 30 because I'd have to have a 0 as a placeholder there or fill in that spot, and I'd have 30% as my percentage. Letter K, 5 hundredths. Again, you might know, if you know how to name that decimal, you already know the answer is going to be 5%. But you could, again, just move the decimal 2 places to the right. And if you move this decimal 2 places over here, it becomes in this position for the whole number of 5. But with the percentage on there, it's like having it as an equivalent to that 5 hundredths. 5% is the same value as 5 hundredths. Letter L, 1 as a percent. So this is 1 whole as a percent. So I need to move the decimal 2 places to the right. And when I do that, what happens? This turns into the number 100. So what is 1 whole? Well, that's 100%. 1 whole is like the whole kit and caboodle. 100% is what you would say. So you see how 1 as a percent is literally 100%. It's a whole amount. Letter M, 7/10. Again, like the 3/10, I could just, I could say 7/10 and then put an equivalent fraction with 100 and say it's 70 and know that this is 70%. Or I could just move the decimal 2 places to the right and end up with that 70 as the whole value with the percentage there. Letter N, 15 hundredths as a percent. And again, you should just know that you move the decimal 2 places to the right and it would become 15 wholes with the percentage symbol on there. It's an equivalent amount to 15 hundredths. All right, excellent work. Make sure you guys do problems 1 through 30 in lesson 75, remembering that all of the practice is necessary in Saxon math when doing your spiraling and learning. All right, have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow.